Atomfall, a story-driven action-adventure survival sandbox game set in the picturesque English countryside of Cumbria surrounding the Windscale nuclear facility. Now, the game and the story elements are based very loosely on a true story about the Windscale nuclear site and how that went into a sort of meltdown and ended up having a big fire. There's tons and tons of stuff online if you're interested in the past of the Windscale facility. I'd highly recommend checking it out. The game launches on the 27th of March. If you are getting early access, that will be 3 days before on the 24th. You can get that with the Deluxe Edition or the Quarantine Edition of the game. Now, this is going to launch on the 27th of March, but I have got to play it. And a massive thank you to Rebellion for letting me check out the game. I got around about an hour and a half of gameplay in there, got loads and loads of cool stuff, tested out some of the core systems, and played around and did a lot of combat. The combat in this game is loads of fun, and today we're going to go over what I've seen so far and my first impressions. We will do a deep dive of the individual systems in a separate video. There's nothing in this about the storyline, so there is no spoilers involved at all. And if you are a fan of Atomfall and cannot wait to play the game, subscribe to the channel because we're going to have tons and tons of Atomfall content coming out over the next few weeks. Now, as the title suggests, I got to play Atomfall. We got around about an hour and a half of playtime, and from my experience so far, this game is brilliant. It runs extremely well. It works so much better than what I thought it would. How the elements fit together are brilliant, which I was quite surprised about, because I've never really seen a game like this before, with this setting, set in the British countryside, with a lot of British elements to it. The red phone boxes, there's pubs everywhere, the little picturesque countryside villages of England. It all works so well. And if you've watched yesterday's video where we covered the developer diary that came out at the end of last week, I believe it was, there is tons and tons of inspiration that they pulled from the British countryside in there, and the team have managed to make it work really well. Everything feels authentic. It really does feel 50s and 60s Britain. And overall, the gameplay mechanics, the visual aesthetic of it all just blends really nicely. And I enjoyed my time playing. It was very short, it was only an hour and a half, but the playtest started around 3 hours in. So we'd already got a decent amount of stuff behind us, and we got to pretty much experience it from a midpoint and go without any restrictions whatsoever, which was great. We didn't have to get any weapons behind us or anything like that. Everything was already there. So we got to really dive straight in at the deep end. And a lot of the core mechanics and systems of the game are really interesting, especially things like the bartering system. This is not something I've really seen in many games before, but how the bartering system works is pretty simple. You trade what you've got in your inventory with something else that you want from a trader. Now, this trader will have very different preferences over what they like to see, which I found really interesting. Visiting different traders would result in different trading amounts. Obviously, they've all got different items, but they want specific and different items off of you. So a herbalist, for example, is going to want more plants. A general trader is going to want more scrap and weaponry if they can find it. And it just works really well. Now, one thing I did find extremely difficult was the storage. They have said before in the dev updates that inventory space is going to be a big issue in the game, which I definitely found that in my short time playing. You didn't really have a lot of room, so you do have to be extremely strategic about what you're going to take around with you. Whether there's going to be some form of like home base where you can store items or a lockbox in certain areas, I'm not 100% sure. We haven't seen any features like that yet, and there wasn't a feature like that in the time that I played. So that may not be something at all, and you are just going to have to be extremely strategic with the weapons and armaments and all the other various bits and bobs that you carry around with you. Now, I did get to experience the skill system. Now, the skill system, pretty generic, run-of-the-mill skills. Nothing to shout about, really. Obviously, I wasn't playing long enough to get a whole host of points behind me to be able to build up my character a lot. But what I did experience was pretty cool. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I will do a bigger and more detailed breakdown of the skills and the barter system in a separate video. Now, the location of the game was something that I think they have pulled off in such a phenomenal way. The picturesque countryside of Sellafield, Cumbria in England, is absolutely gorgeous. How they've managed to do this was brilliant. Where we start off, our 3 hour point in, where we started off in the demo, was the woodlands. So there's a lot of deep, dingy stuff there. There's some mines, there's some caves, there's some old abandoned buildings. There was a hell of a lot to explore in just this one area. Now, it's not massively open world like you'd expect. It does seem like there's going to be big open world sections that you'll move through, rather than a massive connected open world. There's going to be big interconnected sections that you'll be able to progress through. Now, in the dev diary, they have said that that is something that you can do right from the beginning of the game. You're not locked in one starting area or a second area. You can go freely where you want. The only limitation will be the weaponry and gear that you've got on you. And I really did find that weaponry and gear did come into it a lot. You are running out of ammunition a lot. You need to use melee weapons and play extremely strategically. There were many times that I just ran straight in, guns blazing, and it worked out okay. But then there was other times I ran in guns blazing and there was a couple of archers there, or some dudes throwing poison bombs, and that went horribly wrong and I got absolutely rinsed. My ass was slapped, handed back to me, and thank you sir, move on, carry about your day. So it is tough. I died a hell of a lot in the combat situations. I did try and take on the Druid's Castle, which is based in the woods. Now, these are sort of madmen that roam around in the wooded areas of the game. You've seen them in a lot of the trailers. They've got those hooded masks on, and they hang around in the woodlands a lot. Now, the woodlands is their prime area. What I did notice about them and their spawns and how that all worked was very varied. I didn't find that two combat situations were exactly the same, which I thought was really good. So if I died in one bit and then I'd come back, those enemies would still be there, but they wouldn't be doing the same pathing that they did the first time round. So it's going to make combat a little bit more challenging. You are going to have to think a lot about every single encounter that you go into, which I really, really enjoyed. Now, going through the woods with a lot of enemies, it was extremely dense. There was just stuff everywhere. I was getting distracted continuously. It seems like there is so much that we could have done and seen. I didn't have the time. We were playing for, I think it was an hour and a half. I only managed to get about an hour and 15 minutes because I had to go drop my kid off at school. But it was great. It was loads and loads of fun in that time that I did play. I didn't come across any issues whatsoever. My image was a little bit fuzzy, but I believe that was my end with my dodgy and crap internet. It takes me 4 to 5 business days to upload a single bloody video. So I think that was my end. But performance-wise, ran really, really smoothly. Game went really, really well. I mean, it was beamed, so, you know, I was playing on their computer. So it was done through third-party software where I got to play on their machines. So I don't know what they were running, but hopefully my computer handles it well when it does release. We'll have to wait and see on that one. It does seem like it'll be alright judging by the minimum recommended specs that they had on Steam. There was some good stuff on there. Seems pretty average. And as long as you've not got a absolute potato, you should be fine. But the beauty and the visuals of the wooded area on its own were brilliant. I didn't really get to see any of the Windscale facility. I was too busy wandering around and exploring everything. But off in the distance, in a lot of the gameplay that we've seen so far, we've been able to see it, and there have been various elements of it in some gameplay videos that they've shown us. So we obviously do go there at some point. How deep in we go, I'm not 100% sure. Whether it's going to be one of its own massive areas that we'll get to explore, I don't know. But the time that I played in the areas that I did explore, I don't think I would have completed the woodland area for probably another 3 to 4 hours. Now, when it comes to the storyline, how it works is really, really cool. So we're going to be finding clues dotted around everywhere. You can have a conversation with various NPCs, doesn't matter who they are, they will have something to contribute to your story and clues to give you. Some traders will give you locations to go check out. So one trader gave me the location of the Druid's Castle, which has high loot and is their hideout area, which I did try to take down, and I didn't go too well. And there is a story element in there as well that will lead you to the Druid's Castle. So regardless of who you talk to, you'll end up in various different locations with different outcomes depending on what you're there to do. I found various clues dotted around, hitting on fence posts. These clues were absolutely everywhere, and they all led to different areas and different conclusions. So there's not going to be any two same endings, which I do really like about that. And I love the fact that speaking to all of these different people in-game, it was a very short section of the game, but I got to speak to a lot of people in there. And speaking to those various people, I learned different things about different areas, and they sent me on different quests each time in different areas of this woodland piece. So I think the quest system is going to be something very, very different. I like that it's more of a detective. There's not a massive sort of big mark on the screen saying this is what you need to do, this is where you need to go. It's go speak to people, find some clues, and figure out where you're going from there. And the team have already said that regardless of who you speak to, regardless of who you end up shooting and killing or fighting with, you're always going to come to an end conclusion at some point. And no two playthroughs are going to be exactly the same, which I really love. I hope that gives us a lot more replayability and longevity to the game itself. They've already announced that there is going to be a DLC. We don't have any date on that DLC yet, but they're announced that there is one there. Overall, I would highly recommend this game so far, based on the hour and a bit that I've played. The combat felt really, really good. It was strong. It was loads and loads of fun, but it was also very tough at the same time. So, depending on your playstyle, there is something in this game for everybody. You could be an archer, you can kick the crap out of people with baseball bats, cricket bats, or you could just use a sickle and throw it at somebody's head. Completely down to you. I think the freedom of combat and playability in this game is going to be outstanding when it comes to that full launch, and I'm very excited. Now, that is it from me today. We're going to have some more videos going over deeper details, such as the combat, bartering system, and how the quest lines are going to work. For now, though, that is it from me. Hopefully you've all enjoyed. If you have, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and stick around for much more Atomfall. And also a massive thanks to Rebellion for letting me check out the game early. I've been Cowboy, you've been awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Boots with your teeth. Whoa. Aye, let's get the bastard. What's this? Ah, you little...